Hi guys, this is 6NS6 graphing with coordinate planes. Coordinate pairs are written where the first number is the x value, and that goes on the x-axis, and the second value is the y value, and that goes on the y-axis, which moves up and down. So let's take a look at plotting point 2, 1. So the first number we have is 2, and so we're looking at the x-axis, which moves left and right. So you start at 0, and you would move 2 to the right because we were talking about positive 2. If we were talking about negative 2, we would move 2 to the left. This particular graph happens to have every 4 lines is 1. So I'm going to move to the right to the 1 and then to the 2. Then I look at the y value, and the y value is a 1 here. So I'm going to move upwards because it is positive. If we're negative, I would move down. And I'm going to draw my point at 2, 1. Sorry, my point's a little strange there. All right, let's talk about the quadrants. So the first quadrant, quadrant 1, is right here where it is both positive and positive. If you move counterclockwise, so the opposite way that a clock moves, we get over here to quadrant 2. And you'll notice that in quadrant 2, the x value is moving to the left, so that makes it negative, but the y value is still moving upwards, so that makes it positive. If you continue counterclockwise, you'll get down here into quadrant 3, and you'll notice in quadrant 3, on the x value, we're moving to the left, so that means it is negative, and in the y value, we're moving down, so that means that is also negative. Then we're going to finish out our clock here, and we're going to go to quadrant 4. In quadrant 4, you'll notice that the x value is moving to the right of 0, so therefore it is positive x value, and then it is moving down on the y-axis, so that means it is a negative y value. All right, let's plot some points. All right, let's go ahead and label each of these. So we've got quadrant 1, we've got quadrant 2, remember it works counterclockwise. We've got quadrant 3, and we've got quadrant 4. And let's plot the point negative 2, 8. All right, so we're going to plot the point negative 2, 8. So on my x value, I've got a negative 2. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to move 2 to the negative 2, and then I need to, so 2 to the left, and then the 8 is positive on the y value, so I'm going to go up to 8, and I'm going to draw a dot. Oh, my dot's a little off. Right there. It's kind of hard to draw on here. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so that's negative 2, 8. Let's plot another point. Let's try 8, negative 2. We're going to switch it. So this time, I'm going to move this over here. This is 2, 8. We're going to now plot 8, 2. So on the x value, I'm going to go right, because it is positive, to the 8, and I'm going to go down 2 because it is a negative for the y value. So that's going to go right there. All right, so you can see where those ended up. Let's try another thing here. Let's try negative 5, negative 5. So you can see in this particular case, we have a negative 5x value. So I'm going to start at 0 and move left to negative 5, and then a y value of negative 5 also. So I'm going to move down to negative 5, and I'm going to draw my dot right here. You always need to pay attention to the x value first, moving left or right. Right being positive numbers, left being negative numbers. And then the second number is always your y value, moving up if it's positive, moving down if it is negative. Let's try some others here. Let's try 7, negative 4. All right, so on my x value, I'm going to go to positive 7. And so that means to the right 7. And then I'm going to go to negative 4 with the y, which means down 4. And I'm going to draw a dot right here. If not all of your numbers are labeled, you can kind of count by starting at 0 and going to the next one and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you'll find it, and then you can go down 4, 1, 2, 3 to 4, and you can find it that way. All right, so that one was 7, negative 4. All right, and then let's try one more point, because I think you're getting the idea, where we are going to do negative 6, 3. All right, so the first value is negative 6, so that would be on the x-axis. And we're going to go on the x-axis to the left because it's negative, to negative 6. And then I'm going to go up for the y value, 3, because it is a positive 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to draw my dot right here, and I'm going to label it. On your checklist, it says that you're going to do a separate set of notes for reflections, but I decided to just combine that with this. So if you want to continue watching the movie about reflections, that'll help you with all the notes that you need. So you can add these to the same set of notes that are in the green folder. All right, so we're going to talk about reflections. Reflections are like a mirror. They reflect over an axis. So you can either reflect over the y and flip over the y as if there's a mirror being held by the y axis, or you can reflect over the x-axis. With negative 6, 3, let's go ahead and try to reflect over the y. So I am going to go ahead and take my point and reflect it directly over the y-axis. So on the left side of the y-axis, it is going to the left 6 and up 3. So I'm going to start at 0 and I'm going to flip it over the y-axis. So I'm going to go to the right 6 and up 1, 2, 3. And this point here, the purple point, is the reflection of negative 6, 3, and it comes at positive 6, 3, because we reflected over the y-axis. Can you see how it's a mirror image? It's mirrored to this, the same exact distance from 0 on the opposite side of the y. All right, so now let's go ahead and reflect the 7, negative 4 over the y-axis. So we're going to keep with reflecting over the y-axis, but instead of reflecting point negative 6, 3, we're going to reflect 7, negative 4. So we're going over the y-axis, so we need to look, okay, it went to the right of the y-axis 7, so this time it's going to go to the left, and it went down 4. We're going to stay with that down 4. So I'm going to go directly across on negative 4, but I'm going to go over to the negative 7. I'm going to draw my dot right here. and that is the reflection over the y-axis of 7, negative 4, and it becomes negative 7, negative 4. When you reflect over the y, you're just going to change the sign of the x. Again, when you reflect over the y-axis, all you do is change the sign of the x. So instead of positive 7, it becomes negative 7. Instead of negative 6, it becomes positive 6. So you just change the sign of the x value. Let's talk about reflecting over the x-axis. Okay, now we're going to talk about how we're going to reflect over the x-axis. So if you take a look at this first purple one here, I've got this at positive 4 on the x value and negative 4 on the y value. I want to reflect it directly over the x, so it's going to stay where it is as far as the x value is concerned, and it is just going to go positive 4 on the y value. So I am going to go up 4. And there is the reflection of the purple in yellow there. So instead of being 4, negative 4, it is 4, positive 4. All right, let's try this green dot here that is at an x value of negative 6 and a y value of 5. I'm going to reflect over the x, which means I am going to take a look at leaving it at negative 6 for the x value, but move it the opposite direction from the x-axis 5 places downward. So I'm going to take this and it's going to go down to 5. Alright, so you'll notice that with the green dot to the orange dot, it started at negative 6, 5, and it became negative 6, negative 5. When you are reflecting over the x, you change the sign of the y. When you're reflecting over the x, you change the sign of the y. So whichever axis you're reflecting over, you change the sign of the opposite coordinate. So if I'm going over the x, I change the sign of the y, so it goes from positive 5 to negative 5. If I am reflecting over the y, I change the sign of the x. All right, why don't you try to plot some of your own points on this last graph and try to reflect it over the x, try to reflect it over the y, and see what happens, and then check with your neighbors and see if you have it right. All right, if you have more questions, just email me or message me on Remind, and I will get back to you. Thanks so much. Bye.